basically the DOD has to provide a metric for measuring progress toward DOD's goal of having a mission-ready workforce. I guess this reminds me of another hearing that we had when we were going over the 30-year shipbuilding plans of the Navy, and we happened to have 3 graduates before us of the Naval Academy, all graduated the same year, and it was 36 years ago. So I asked him, from where you sit today, would you have guessed 30 years ago what your needs were? And of course, they said no. I mean, you know, it's a dynamic process, and it's one that changes. I'm not defending the DOD, but the thing is that if you're holding them to a criteria of a mission-ready workforce, how are you going to know? How are they to know what the mission is going to be like 5 years, 10 years from now? And I can tell you, I represent Hawaii. Who would have thought that we would have gone from a conventional type of military to strikers, all within a period of 5 years? How are they to know? And what I also want you to answer to me is, it seems like if this requirement is put upon them and they can't project it, you almost seem to be proposing outsourcing, because then you don't have to have a military ready or a civilian workforce that can address things if you don't know what the mission is going to look like. I think we've seen in the past 10 years how different this mission is. So if you can comment to that.
Sure. I think it's DOD that has made the statement many times that you have a plan to make a plan. And we emphasize that the strategies contained in their workforce plan, when they develop them to meet their needs to be flexible in order to address emerging needs. It's actually the legislative requirement that mandates that DOD look forward 7 years, starting the year after they submit their workforce plan to Congress. And it used to be 10 years. And there's a lot of debate about how far forward can an organization be without losing some sense of reality, and just along the lines of what you're saying. But there are emerging needs. Again, I'll use my example that I had earlier of traumatic brain injury that developed and it kept growing, and that was an emerging need several years ago, and it was the kind of need that needed to be built into the medical plan in order for the people to have the right medical provider. So there are emerging needs that when, like Mr. Tamburrino talks about surveying for the existing, it's also a lot of knowledge about here's what's starting to break through, and it's going to be issues for DOD in the future.
I understand that, Ms. Farrell, and I understand that Congress in its wisdom thinks we're doing the right things a lot of time. But that's why we have you doing reports to tell us, you know, you're off the mark. If you think that, you know, we're asking the DOD to do something that they can't do, you know, you should point it out. But it still begs the issue, which is that to define a mission ready, I can understand a trauma situation like that. But let's talk about mission ready. Basically, what type of workforce are we going to need, for example, for the shipyards, for anything else into the future when we are changing what they need to have the skills for? So civilian, for example. We may need welders today, but who knows whether that technology is going to change in 5 years, and what do we do? Should there be a component of retraining? Should there be an assessment? What is it that when you say mission-ready workforce that you expect the DOD to be able to do when you made that statement?
I think that was their metric that they were using, saying that they would have a certain percentage mission ready.
So when you
but again, we believe in metrics, whether it's congressionally mandated or not. We would believe that they need to have metrics for what they are trying to achieve, and we would believe that they need to look forward about their future workforce and what those needs are.
And that's my question. How do you determine, or how in your mind have they looked to the future workforce when we may not know what that future workforce is going to be like? You're almost like telling them, like the 30-year plan. It's like, okay, just put something out there and say, so if they did that, would they satisfy the quote-unquote, the metric by saying this is what we think it's going to be like and this is what we're doing?
Well, again, we want an assessment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.